Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is our League of Ireland Premier Division show. I'm joined by Gary Spain as always, and we're here. We're going to talk about all the Premier Division games from over the weekend. Gary, how are you keeping? Enjoy that weekend of football?
Yeah, keeping well, Paul. Yeah, I enjoyed the weekend. A couple of surprises. I know you were at Bohs in Dundalk, which is for me was a big surprise. And well, what did you think? Were Bohs value for the win?
I think so, yeah, because they started so brightly. They obviously got the early goal with Danny Grant, and then the goal from Keith Buckley. I think the two goals so quickly and so early really shocked Dundalk. You could tell that they just weren't expecting that whatsoever. And you know, everyone knows how good Dundalk are, but they just haven't shown so far this season. Or well, sorry, not this season, since the restart. The two games, they just look a little bit sluggish. Just don't seem to be getting that kind of rhythm going, which we're so used to seeing. And Bohs, to their credit, I mean, they could have been 4-5-1 up easily. And Gary Rogers made 3 or 4 really, really good saves. And you remember that they were without Dan Mandreo for this game as well. So, like, you would have thought Dundalk were the favourites for this game, albeit it was an away game. But for me, looking at the game as overall, I'm now looking at Bohs, and I think they are the real deal. And they could really, finish the season strongly if they keep going the way they're going. They've good young players all over the pitch. They've nearly 2 players for every position now. Even James Talbot's taking a spot on the bench if Stephen McGuinness is coming in and filling in and doing brilliantly. Like, they have literally really good players all over the pitch. And I'm looking at Dundalk. I think some of their new signings, they're going to need some time to bed in. I think to kind of get that little bit of settling in period. Odua and Kolovich actually provided unbelievable assist for Michael Duffy's header just before half time. And you would have said at that point that they were lucky to get that goal because, as I said, Bohs could have been easily. I, I think I said overall it could have been 5-1, but in the first half could have been easily 3 or 4-1. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock. I'm sure anyone who was at home or just kind of getting an alert off their phone would have been checking it and been like, "What's going on here? Like, how is it 2-1 or how was it 2-0 at the time? Sorry, to Bohs, because as I said, Dundalk would have been the favourites going into that game.
Yeah, I just what do you think of the Dundalk defence? It always used to be a strong point to me, and I feel they were not taking anything away from Bohs, who were superb and fully deserved the win. I agree. Uh, I thought the goals were a little bit easy. I thought Chris Twardek gave Sean Gannon a total roasting. And I thought the first goal, the ball came a long way into the box and there was no pressure on the ball. Danny Grant seemed to rise unchallenged. And it's not the Dundalk we know from previous, well, even before lockdown and going back over the years.
Yeah, well, I think look, it's one of those things, isn't it? I think Sean Gannon didn't have his best night of football, and he's usually absolutely excellent, and you know, consistently been so good for the last how many years, So I think Chris Twardek has been probably the best signing this season. Anyway, I know the season's been stop start, but even before the lockdown, he was brilliant. And just look, he's an international player for Canada, so yeah, just he's good on the left. Yeah, Danny Grant on the right. You know what I mean? And he actually switched because he doesn't normally play on the left. He'd normally play on the right, and Mandreo would play there. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think maybe Gannon was preparing maybe for Grant rather than Twar. Like, I think he said that in the aftermatch interview, which we'll obviously pull up now in a sec. But yeah. I don't know. Like, as I said, if it wasn't for Gary Rogers, they'd have conceded 3 more easily. He made um, 3 1-on-1 saves, and then he made a great save from an Andre Wright header as well. He tipped it over the bar. So yeah, like, I don't know what's going on with the Dundalk defence. We obviously had Andy Boyle and Daniel Cleary in there as well. So it was a solid defence. Like, they weren't missing anybody. Do you know what I mean? It's like Chris Shields in midfield, as well, Pat Hooban. They had players that would normally always playing, and Flores was in there too. Obviously, he's having a decent season goal scoring wise. So yeah, it was shocking for me, but I don't know. Maybe they're just having a couple of bad days. You got to remember, people are treating the Pats game last week like a defeat. It was a draw. It wasn't a defeat.
I think it felt like a defeat for a lot of Dundalk fans, and particularly when Shamrock Rovers came back and beat Finn Harps then.
Yeah, well, look, maybe so, but like Pats got beat by Derry then, didn't they? After that performance, so everyone's kind of beating everybody.
Yeah. So, um, and do you think Bohs can challenge for the title now? Is that unrealistic, or is it on?
You know what? I was thinking it yesterday when Derry won 1-0 up against Shamrock Rovers, which we'll come to later on in the show, and I was thinking, do you know what? It might be a title race here. And I was obviously going to look like a good result for Dundalk too. But look, if they can, happy days. I think it's exciting if they can. So I hope they can. Whether they can sustain the momentum, it remains to be seen. But yeah, they look good. They look sharp, and they were drawn in Europe. Another thing we'll talk about in a little bit. But so they'll be looking forward to that as well. So that could take its toll on them in the league too. So kind of have to weigh that one up too. But if I was a Bohs fan, I'd be very excited about the future ahead. And Keith Long deserves great credit because you got to remember, and not that long ago, he lost a lot of players. I think it was the season before last in the summer. He lost a lot of players, or at the end of the season, and a lot of those players left, and he had to kind of keep the boat afloat really, and he has done that magnificently. And the players that he's brought in have been unbelievable. He's bringing on young players off the bench. Dawson Devoy is only like 17, came off the bench today, really good player. So they just obviously with the St. Kevin's connection, they've got something really good going on there. They're producing players all the time, and it's not really a surprise to me now that how well they're doing in the league because of what the players they're producing.
Well, Keith Long has done a superb job, as you say. I mean, but everyone was writing them off last year. I mean, they finished third, and I think people were even well into the season, no matter how impressive they were, saying, "Oh, they'll fall away. They're part-time. They're up against the full-time teams." They qualified for Europe, third place. I thought, look, fantastic. They've had an amazing season. I thought the best they could do this season was third, and now you're looking at it, they're gone ahead of Dundalk. They're in second place. 6 points off Rovers. They still have to. They're playing them early next month in Tala. I'm going to write them off again. I don't think they can win the league, but they've been proving me wrong and proving everybody else wrong. So, do you think? I mean, are Bohs fans dreaming of winning the title? And I mean, they'd be taking it from Shamrock Rovers. Well, effectively, it's theirs to lose. So, is it realistic?
I still think there's a lot of games to be played. Not to sound that old cliche type of thing, but there is. I think Europe might be a factor in this as well. And then you've got obviously as well the fact that they have to play each other. So it could open it. It could really open it. For all the teams really, for Dundalk, Bohs, and Rovers. If they get a couple of wins against each other, who knows what could happen. I still think Dundalk have to come back and we'll go on a bit of a run, so I wouldn't rule Dundalk out just yet. I still think that they would finish ahead of Bohs, but I'm just saying Bohs fans, whether they want to get excited or not, that they have something good going on there and they should be getting right behind it, and they're really good to watch as well. So I think if anyone's kind of coming into the League of Ireland looking for a team that kind of play good football, they're young, fast, exciting, and they've kind of got a good blend of experience there as well, that Bohs would be a good team for them to, especially if they're only getting into the league, to go watch anyway. But in my opinion, I'd have to watch Shells, but it is what it is.
Okay.
But I caught up with Chris Twardek and Keith Long after the break, or after the match the other day, so you can hear what they have to say. Here's Chris Twardek.
Okay, so I'm just joined by Bohemians Chris Twardek after 2-1 win. You played your part in the second goal. What was your thoughts overall on the game? It's a massive result.
Well, we went into the game kind of knowing what there was to play for, bypassed them, and the reality is we're coming into almost halfway into the season. So we're delighted, but we kind of know that you have to follow it up with a win. That's the message. That's the message from the top. Follow it up with a win next week, and then you like we spoke about in the break, you got to hit the ground running, and we did that. We've done that 6 points out of 6, so we're real happy with that.
Yeah, you caused a lot of problems on the left hand side against arguably the best right back in the league. What were your thoughts on that? Like, did you come into the game knowing that you were up against obviously Sean Gannon, who's been known for how many years now?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Normally we'd have myself on the right and Danny on the left.
Yeah.
And the gaffers decided to swap it, and for whatever reason, I think it worked out well today. Danny Grant got a lot of joy last week in Cork, and today, sometimes you just get more of the ball. It just depends on how the game's spaced out. So he's a great defender. So there's nothing that can be said. Maybe next week, he'll get the better of me, and it's just like that in football.
Yeah, now you mentioned there obviously the fact that Dan's not playing, but you wouldn't even notice that he wasn't playing considering how well he's playing. I mean, he could have probably been about 4 or 5 goals up, other than Gary Rogers making 3 unbelievable saves, one from yourself as well. Yeah. But you must be going into every game now believing you can beat anyone at this rate.
Well, I spoke about that in the interview with you earlier, and that's our belief. We've got good coaching staff, we're well organised, and we've got a lot of attributes that can threaten a lot of teams, and there's that buzz with Europe as well. There's a lot to play for, even though it's been a shortened season. So I think there's a lot of excitement, a lot of optimism in the group, and that takes you a long way in football.
Yeah, I was just saying to the manager there, Keith, that is it a case now of just trying to finish as high up in the league as possible now?
You know what? I know it was terrible conditions at the start of the season, but that game against Rovers could have easily been a 0-0 draw, or even we could have won it. I missed a chance there in the first half against them, and all of a sudden, you're 1-2 points off them, but there's still so much that can happen. I mean, things change at week to week basis, so we're still playing for. You have to go for the. You'd be silly not to go for the highest you could go, which is winning the league, winning the FAI Cup. That's our ambition.
Yeah, and obviously there's no shortage of quality as we've seen today. So many good young players coming through at the moment. So as you say, you must have serious belief to go on and maybe achieve some sort of trophy this year.
Yeah, that's the thing. We worked so hard over the break, and you don't put in hours and hours a day over 3 months, and nobody's seeing any of that. It's easy to put in a shift whenever there's a streaming service or when there's fans in the stadium, but when you're putting it in a day-to-day basis like we felt we done, you reap the benefits when you come back. So we're going for trophies, we're going for wins on a week-to-week basis, and we're optimistic about that.
Well, onwards and upwards, Chris. Thanks very much for your time. I'll let you go. All right.
Awesome.
So I'm just here with Keith Long after his side's 2-1 victory over Dundalk. Keith, you must be absolutely delighted after that.
Yeah, it's a good win. Obviously, we're very pleased. Great start to the restart for us. 2 wins. Big performance today because I think we played quite well. We rode our luck once or twice, but I think equally so did Dundalk. We've had more, probably on balance the better of the chances and more chances in the game. Potentially could have won the game a little bit more comfortably, but we've gone 2 ahead in the first half, and we were good value for that, and we've had a chance or 2 more. I think Gary Rogers saves at his feet. Andre has a header that Gary Rogers tips over the bar. And then we conceded a disappointing goal at the back post in the 42nd minute. So we could have gone in at 2-0. We would go in at 2-1. We refocused the boys at half time. We approached the game in the second half as if it was 0-0. We come out. Pat Hoban plants a header against the crossbar, so we get away with that a little bit. But then I felt we grew into the game quite well second half and created chances, played on the front foot a little bit. I thought the boys carried out the game plan to a T. They were disciplined in their approach. Got a little bit tired towards the end. I think that's only natural, but I think we showed some good fitness levels, good energy around the team, and I thought we're worthy winners, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And you wouldn't even notice the absence of James Talbot or Dan Mandreo. These were that good. Danny Grant and Chris Twardek on the wings were really causing havoc, and Keith Ward pulling the strings. We surprised in any way that we're going to have that type of performance, obviously against Dundalk.
Yeah, well, listen, we felt and that Dundalk will be hurting because of their disappointing performance last week, I suppose. When you look at that, and they've got some strong characters in their dressing rooms. They're serial winners, so we were expecting a bit of a backlash, and we started the game really well. We've got quality in our team. I've said it in my programme notes. We've got some capable players here at the football club. We've got a lot of young players coming through. Dawson Devoy coming on for Keith Ward, and like you said, Wardy gave us everything. Wardy's been fantastic since we've come back to training. His attitude, is infectious. He's shown a lot of maturity now around the group, and he's one of the leaders in the dressing room, believe it or not. So for a cheeky happy chappy. But the boys down the side really good, Twardick and Danny Grant. So they've caused problems to both fullbacks. Andre Wright was a handful today up front, gave us a platform to play from. Back four were solid, disciplined. Middle two, JJ and Bucko, covered a lot of ground in there for us today. So good performance, good team performance, and I think we're deserved winners.
Yeah, without jumping too far ahead, and just the less fixtures or whatever. But in your case, is it just trying to finish as high as possible now?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Not getting too carried away now or anything.
No, we're not getting carried away at all. We leave that to you guys in the media to decide, where we lie. We focus on every game. We focus on the next game. We've got Finn Harps away, and just said to the boys inside that it's really important that we prepare properly this week. We recover well tomorrow. We get ourselves right for the game up in Ballybuffet, because today will count for nothing if we don't go to a really tough place and to grind out a result up there. So that's really important. But on today, on last week, we can ask no more from the players. We've got back-to-back wins. We asked for a fast start in this restart, and I think we've got that. So it's credit to the players how they've trained, their attitude and application to what we've done in lockdown, and I think we've come back a better team as a result. I've been able to work with the players in a lot more detail than we would normally in a normal season. So we'll see. Today's a good game, a good win for us, and we're delighted with the result. So, but we're not getting carried away. We know that there's a lot of games, a lot of football to be played. There's a lot of highs and lows, and we've got to make sure that we keep ourselves on an even keel and make sure that we stay grounded, which we will. We've got a good group. The players will refocus very, very quickly, and our attention will turn to Harps on Saturday.
Well, Keith, thanks very much. Enjoy the night, and congratulations.
Okay, thanks a lot.
So they are Keith Long and Chris Twarg. I know it was a bit long there, but that was just their reaction. They basically, Keith Long is not getting carried away, but at the same time, Chris Twarg, like I said, their ambition is to aim as high as possible, win a trophy if they can. But keeping it at the top, Shamrock Rovers against Derry, which I know you watched and I watched it as well. But obviously Derry took the lead. Walter Figueira with the goal, shot, cross, whatever you want to call it. It was a cross to me. Pico Lopez goes to head it. Seems to kind of misjudge the flight of the ball. Goes in past Alamanis, and it's 1-0. It was a shock kind of lead. I thought anyway for Derry to take the lead. What were you thinking when you seen it was 1-0 Derry? I was thinking title race on.
Yeah, I was thinking. I thought it came slightly against the run of play, but I thought Derry played really well, and certainly they were well in the game. And when the goal went in, I'll give them the benefit of doubt. It may have been a cross, but it could be one of those crosses that players kind of aim to just nip inside the far post anyway, just in case. But anyway, it was title race on at 1-0, and you're thinking, wow. And I mean, and that's putting Bohs, not just Dundalk, that's putting Bohs right in the title race then as well.
Yeah, but obviously Shamrock Rovers, Stephen Barry made the subs. He brought them on, Williams, Ferrugia, and who was the last sub then?
Graham Burke and Rory Gaffney came on as well. I think Neil Ferrugia and Graham Burke came on at half time, and then Rory Gaffney and Dean Williams came on early enough, I think, in the second half. And it's what a bench, what the caliber of players to be able to bring on off the bench to change a game.
Well, this is what I'm saying about teams at the top. I said it I was on Today FM on Saturday, and I was saying it to Deck Pierce. It's like the teams at the top, the reason they're at the top is because they've got only two players for every position: Bohs, Dundalk, Rovers. And then they bring on someone who's almost, if not better, as good as in quality. And they can do that when you've got the likes of Ferrugia. And I was saying, like, he needs to be pushed up higher, in my opinion. When he's in one-on-one situations, he skins the fullback every time, and he was doing that then. And at the ball came across anyway from the right hand side, and Williams gets a head on it, and it came back off the upright. I think it was the post to hit off, and then it went in off Horgan. Unfortunately for him, like, he just happened to be standing in the wrong place at the wrong time, because Derry, to their credit, were worth the lead. You could see they were frustrating Shamrock Rovers. The pitch itself looked extra bouncy yesterday. I don't know what it was, but it just looked like it wasn't a good surface for Rovers to play on. It doesn't seem like they could get that crisp passing going. But look, they stuck it out. They obviously got their goal. I thought Cherry made an unbelievable save from Williams. That went out for a corner, and then the following resulting corner came through, and it was Pico Lopez there, who has a habit of getting important goals for Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah, it was. Well, we'll go back to the first goal because I think that was absolutely crucial because it looked like Rovers. They came on in the second half. The substitutions made a difference. It was actually Rory Gaffney who crossed it in for Dean Williams. So it was two subs combining. And yeah, I really feel for Colm Horgan. There's nothing he could do about it running back. And but yeah, once the first goal went in, I think the second one was coming. Cherry made a brilliant save, as you mentioned, with his legs. And then Pico Lopez, he was actually, who was it? It was Graham Burke, actually, the other substitute who set up, who crossed in the ball, and it just fell. It was a bit of a scramble. It fell to Pico Lopez. Absolutely crucial goal. But even then, Derry hit the bar. Alan Manis had to make two superb saves. And that's only in the last 10 minutes and whatever at a time there was. So, but having said that, I mean, Rovers weren't at their best on Sunday, but what a sign of a team that's going to win a league. If you can go away from home to a really difficult place, you're not playing at your best, you go behind, and you go and win 2-1. I'll tell you that more than any other game this season has really, really got to be the sign of champions or champions elect. That was a really impressive win.
Yeah, well, they seem to just not stopped since the FAI Cup win. They've kind of just kept that momentum going, and I was just watching them yesterday. They reminded me of Manchester United when Ferguson was in charge, where they were just relentless. They were just going for that goal, going for that goal, going for that goal. Then they got it. Then they got the winner. And then they defended for their lives so that they wouldn't concede a goal, which, as you said, is a sign of champions. I'm not going to say that they are champions yet because I still think there's a lot of games to be played, and I think there's going to be some ups and downs still. I think there might be a couple of shocks in there too. But look, they're definitely doing something special there at Rovers as well. We spoke about Bohs and what they're doing. Williams coming through there. They've obviously got other players that they're bringing up from Shamrock Rovers too. You've got Brandon Kavanagh, who got a few. I think he got his third assist in 2 games for Shamrock Rovers too as well. So they're producing good young players as well. Let's not forget. But Derry, I think, on reflection, they can take a lot of positives out of the game. I think definitely the probably the only they're probably the only team to kind of frustrate Shamrock Rovers this season. I think. I know Dundalk scored 2 against them and looked like they were going to win it in Tala, and then the game turned on its head and they won 3-2. So they are showing signs of champion Rovers, but at the same time, I think Terry deserve huge credit for their performance yesterday. They didn't deserve to lose the game yesterday. I thought they were brilliant, and again, their just problem is consistency. That's their only problem.
Yeah, definitely the consistency point of view. I mean, they came back from lockdown and had a shock. It was a shock home defeat by Sligo Rovers. Then they go down and play a flying St. Pat's team, and they beat them well in Richmond Park, and they played really well yesterday. As you say, they will feel very, very unfortunate. Another point about Shamrock Rovers has got to be their fitness. I think that's the 4th game they've won in the last 20 minutes. They beat Bohs in the first game of the season in the last minute. They had to come from behind in the last 20 minutes to beat Dundalk. Down in Sligo, they had to win it in the late on as well. And then they were a goal down with 15 minutes to go yesterday, and to actually go and win the game 2-1. So it's as you were saying about that old Man United team under Alex Ferguson. They just keep going, but they must have some levels of fitness as well. Yeah, no, really impressive. League isn't over, as you say. There's a long way to go, and Rovers were further ahead last season, but they just, for the other teams, it looks a bit ominous. I think is that 11 league wins in a row now for Shamrock Rovers. If you go back to last season, throw in the cup final, which they won, albeit on penalties, they're in some form.
Yeah, definitely. But we obviously weren't at the game, and we don't have any aftermatch reactions from that game. But I think we'll move it on to a game that Jared was obviously covering with St. Pat's against Finn Harp's 2-0 win with Georgie Kelly getting both of the goals. But I think, business back in business for St. Pat's. That's the result they needed after a draw, a defeat, and now obviously they got bounced back with a win there. So I think that's good for them now that their confidence will be high. They now have a goal scorer, which they've probably been lacking the last while. They've had good players in the team and good strikers, but they haven't had an out-and-out goal scorer, which is what this fella is. And it shows his ambition that he's willing to leave the champions to go and play somewhere where he knows he'll be the main man and the main goal scorer. Obviously a manager he knows very well with Stephen O'Donnell, who we have links with at Dundalk. So yeah, he obviously and he's got Robbie Benson there as well, who played with him at Dundalk as well and knows his game. So I think he set up one of the 2 goals, because he spoke about it. But yeah, I think this is a really, really good signing for St. Pat's, and I think that's something that they've been lacking.
Yeah, definitely. And you're on about the Dundalk connection. It was the first goal Robbie Benson set up, and it was a beautiful sliding pass. And he just picked out Georgie Kelly perfectly, and that was the first goal. I think it was after about 12, 14 minutes, I think it was, that Pats took the lead. And and the second one was a real striker's instinct. It was another mistake actually. The first goal from a Finn Harps point of view was a bit of a disappointment for Sam Todd. He was caught in possession by Robbie Benson. Benson did really, really well. Second goal, I think Harps self-destructed again. Kosofor Siddiqui he left his back pass short, and Georgie Kelly, real striker's instinct. He was on it like a flash, and he rounded Mark McGinley and just rolled it into the net. And I think at 2-0, half an hour gone, it was effectively game over.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think Finn Harps are gonna collect their points a lot more at home this season than obviously away, even with or without fans. I kind of feel sorry for them in a way, because I thought they recruited well and stuff like that. But when I see results like that, it doesn't shock me. But I've also kind of feel sorry for them because I heard stories about them, and having to rent out dressing rooms from a school and stuff like this. So they're struggling financially. This COVID thing is not helping them one bit. Not that it's helping anybody, but it's really affecting them, and they're really kind of on a shoestring budget trying to keep the club afloat. Which it's quite admirable considering they're from Donegal, and they still have players there coming from all over to play for them and stuff like that, and you just kind of feel bad for them in a way. You'd like to see them do well. Obviously, I wouldn't like to see them finish ahead of Shells this season, but I would like to see them stay. I just like having them in the league. I think they kind of bring something different.
They do, and it's a great place to visit. I mean, Ballybuffet isn't a big town, and I mean, Donegal has a decent football tradition, but I think it's always difficult. It's a long way from. It feels like it's certainly a long way from Dublin. It's probably a long way from everywhere. The only games they have that are anywhere close, I suppose, for them are Sligo Rovers and Derry City, but they have a lot of travelling to do. This lockdown it has affected them. It's been really tough. They've come back. They've lost 3 out of 3. And who have they got up next? Bohemians coming. And they're looking at Bohemians having beaten Dundalk. And I don't know. It's this division isn't very forgiving for them. But there's a long way to go yet, and they are very tough to beat at Finn Park. And Keith Long, he said it in his interview. He knows he's going to have a match there on Saturday. And I wouldn't write them off yet. They're probably aiming for even the playoffs at this stage. And as I know too well as a Limerick fan, Finn Harps in the playoffs are very, very tough to beat.
Yeah, well, obviously last year as well, but when they played the playoff as well.
So.
Yeah, well, look, Ger caught up with Georgie Kelly and Stephen O'Donnell to get their thoughts after the game. So here you go.
Ger Brown here for Irish Football Fan TV, and I'm with St. Pat's goal scoring hero Georgie Kelly. Georgie, it's finally nice to get off the mark and to get 2 goals makes it even sweeter.
Yeah, it's a bit of a relief. When you first come to the club, the big, everyone's waiting on, trying to get your first goal, and there's a lot of pressure on to get that first one. And so normally when you get the first one, then normally a few of them come. So I'm delighted, to get 2 in the night, and most importantly get the 3 points on the board and move up the table.
Yeah, the second goal was a bit of a mistake from their behalf, but the first goal, lovely to pass in by Robbie Benson to set you up.
Yeah, great little vision. I know from playing with Robbie that he loves that little reverse pass. When he cuts inside, he reverses it back on himself. So luckily, I thought he was going to shoot, to be honest. So delighted that he put it in the play for me and finished it. So it was great. Yeah.
Unselfish player.
Yep.
Obviously, it would be nice for you to get your hat trick at the end. Were you a little bit annoyed to be?
I was, because I missed a great chance. Jay McLennan played me through there probably just 15 minutes into the second half, and I should have scored. So yeah, a bit of disappointment there. But listen, as I say, we're delighted to get 3 points and move up the table.
It looked at one stage that you might even have seen the second half. You went down after a heavy challenge with Dave Webster. You're holding the knee for a small bit. You had to go off the pitch just for a brief moment, but no major issues there.
Hopefully not. Now I'll just get it assessed there now, and I'll reassess it in the morning. But hopefully it should settle. Just a bit of swelling should be okay. Yeah.
There'll be a case of deja vu now Monday night when you head up to Finn Park. You to play Finn Harps again. This time the FAI Cup.
Yeah, listen, again, another massive game, because we see the FAI Cup as a competition that we can do well in and progress in. So it's never easy heading up to Donegal. It's not going to be easy again, especially as you say, back to back. Finn Harps are a big physical side, and we're going to have to regroup and go again. So yeah, we'll be all guns blazing because we know how important these cup games are, and we're looking forward to it.
Be a nice trip back home for you. Finally, just over 2 weeks now since you signed, this was your second game. How have you settled back in, or how have you settled even in here so far?
Great. The lads have been brilliant. I've moved the house up here in Selbridge with a few of the boys. It's been great. Everyone at the club's been really welcoming. And the period for me to settle in has been a breeze, really. So I'm just looking forward now to get more minutes, and hopefully over the next couple of months to chip in a few goals.
Georgie, thanks very much for talking to us. Ger Brown with you here for Irish Football Fan TV, and we'd like to be joined by St. Pat's manager Stephen O'Donnell following their 2-0 victory against Finn Harps. Stephen, the perfect response to Monday's setback against Derry.
Yeah, good response. Obviously, would have taken that result before kick-off. Obviously, everyone was a little bit sort of down after Monday night, after a positive performance previous Friday. So important we got back up on the horse and back on track, and happy to do so. But also well aware that we do have to improve, and we will improve. But the players' attitude and application was excellent, and we kick on from here.
Yeah, and great as well to see your new striker Georgie Kelly hit the ground running with a brace tonight.
Yeah, very happy. Obviously it's important for a striker, for his confidence to get up and running as quick as possible. So probably happier with Georgie's second goal than his first, in the sense of we're looking for him to improve maybe his reactions and his second movements and that, and he did. He could have easily given up on a somewhat hopeful ball, but he pressurised the defender and the keeper into a little mix-up and went and finished with great composure.
After conceding in both your last 2 games, nice as well to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, exactly. Our defensive record has been pretty decent. We've given away sloppy goals when probably we've been in possession. Something we're trying to eradicate. But on the whole, before, I think we'd conceded 2 in our first 4 pre-COVID. Obviously conceded 3 in our first 2 post, and then clean sheet today. So on the whole, our defending's been pretty good, and we're trying to build on that. Obviously foundations are built at the back, and something we're going to try and look to be consistent with, and then obviously have a bit of threat up the other end.
This win now moves you into 4th in table. I know there's still a couple of games left this weekend. I know the manager's motto, just take it every game at a time. But the fact now it's only an 18 league season, do you start looking at the table and looking at possible European places already?
Look, you'd be lying if you weren't, in the sense of, as you said, it's a sprint finish, 18 league games, there's not huge margin for error. So, obviously you're keeping a little eye, but ultimately it comes back to us on the training pitch, and then our performances each and every time we take the pitch on a match day. If you get that right, the attitude, application, and I think we have some talented individuals, mix all that in together, you shouldn't be too far away most weeks. So that's what we're kind of concentrating on. But you do have a little peek at the table also, as you said. You're nearly like on the home run already after just what feels like just starting back.
Another quick turnaround. 3 days again, you're in action again. Finn Harps again in the FAI Cup up in Finn Park.
Yeah, exactly. Same opposition. It'll be the same for both teams. Quick turnaround for both teams. So it's a game we try and recover over the weekend, and it's a game we're looking forward to. And we'll be going up there, knowing that it's going to be a physical, tough encounter. And both teams know they're 4 games away from a cup final appearance, so both teams will be going at a hammer and tongs, and we're looking forward to it.
And finally, the last time I spoke to you was the Cork match here, which was just before the country went into lockdown, and you could face a couple of headaches yourself now. Kildare is one of them counties that's gone into lockdown. You have a couple of players living there, and obviously you train there. Any update? I know it's still early days.
No, we only found out literally when the boys were taking the pitch for the warm-up, so that's a bridge we'll cross when we come to it, but I don't have any news or information on that front, you know. Literally we're coming out of the dressing room after the game, so we'll cross that bridge, as I said, when we come to it.
Stephen, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
So they are Stephen O'Donnell and Georgie Kelly giving their after-match reactions to our man, Gerard Brown. On to Shelbourne and Sligo from the showgrounds, and obviously 2-1 win for Sligo, unfortunately for me. But Jesse Devers with the goal, with the first goal after 30 seconds, and then David Cawley with the second, then before Gary Deegan getting the consolation goal in added time, or stoppage time if you rather. From your position here, what were you thinking after 30 seconds? I was thinking to myself, oh no, here we go.
Yeah, Paul, I mean, to concede so early. Ryan De Vries did really well down the left, by the way, to set up that goal. But I mean, you're going away from home in Shelbourne's position. You're coming off a very good win away from home in Ballybuffet with 10 men. I mean, you have to try and keep it tight first 15, 20 minutes, and you concede after 30 seconds, one of the fastest goals of the season. And from a defensive point of view, it didn't get any better. I thought the second goal was very disappointing from Michelle's point of view. Corner on the right was never cleared, and it just seemed to fall to David Cawley. Just happened to be in the right place and stuck it in from 6 yards. And unfortunately, I thought from your point of view and from a Shelbourne point of view, it was I thought Sligo were very good value for the win. But
they were, yeah.
Yeah, but can I just say, we're talking about teams coming back from lockdown, and I know Bohs, and we're talking about Bohs and Rovers coming back with full points. Sligo have been incredibly impressive. I mean, they were bottom of the table. They didn't have a point when they came back from lockdown. They're after getting 2 wins out of 2, and 2 hugely impressive wins, 2 surprise wins.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think they benefited from the fact that the Waterford game was obviously postponed and Shells had to play the extra game. Then I think they benefited a lot more. Shells had to go up and play a large part of that game with 10 men, up in Ballybuffet, all the travelling as well on top of that. Then they're going back to Sligo then. So look, I'm not making excuses, but I did say I said it as well on Today FM that I wasn't optimistic about getting a result down in the showgrounds because they've had the extra break really. Yeah, they obviously use that to their advantage, and credit to them. You got to capitalize on these things, and if you don't, I think you'd be silly not to, try and gain every advantage you can to get out of the relegation zone. But Shells we need to be careful that we're not dragged into a relegation battle after doing so well, starting off so well. A couple of defeats before you're right back in there, you're sucked back in. So Shells just need to be very, very wary that get players like Carl Shepherd sent off, who we're going to need for the course of the season. He's experienced, he's seasoned, he knows the league inside out. He's the type of player who'll help you grind out a win. He's not the type of fella that you want getting sent off and missing games, and especially at that early into a game. Now, luckily, Shells were brilliant against Finn Harps and were able to do it, but just lacking a goal scorer, no one there to put the ball in the net. Once it gets to midfield, Shells look lost for ideas, and yeah, it's about getting someone to score the goals in the box. Jays Cabia hasn't looked himself since the restart. Sean Quinn's came in and done really well, I think, anyway, alongside Gary Deegan there. Gary Deegan's obviously been a standout as well. Really leads the Shells team. Probably like to see him get up the pitch a bit more. He likes to take the ball, give it simple. I'd like to see him do a little bit more with it. Obviously, he scored the goal in later on, but yeah, as you said, defensively. Were the 2 problems for the goals. 2 defensive errors, really, wasn't it? I mean, it was very easy for Sligo, I think, anyway. So, yeah, Shells just need to be playing Derry now, and they're after coming off being beaten by Shamrock Rovers after doing so well against them. I'm not looking forward to welcoming them to Talca Park, but look, it's you got to win these games to stay in the division to show that you're there on merit. So it's going to be up to Shells to show that. As for Sligo, massive credit to them. They've got really good players there. Ronald Coughlin's a really good player. You've got Junior to add to the mix there, as well as Devers.
Yeah.
So look, they've a good team. Liam Buckley knows the league. He'll also be eager to stay in the league. I don't think they'll be anywhere near the relegation come the end of the season, which is kind of mad because I thought they were gone effectively at the lockdown. So credit to them as well. Look, it can change after a few games. Everybody could beat everyone in this division, and it's shown.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying you don't think Sligo will have any trouble staying in the division. Is it ridiculous to talk about Sligo Rovers for Europe? I mean,
Bit premature, I think.
it's a
But
bit
yeah, I wouldn't
premature,
rule
but
it out.
they could be in the. I mean, it's also tight around there. I mean, you're talking about Chelsea for possibly avoid relegation. I mean, if you're looking at the table, anyone goes on a decent run of matches, and I mean, I think you've got to look at Waterford for Europe. You got to look at St. Pat's. You got to look at Chelsea. You got to look at Sligo, and equally, I mean, if the results go wrong for Sligo Rovers next weekend, they could be bottom of the table. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very tight league, and I mean, it's great from the situation that there's only 18 games. Every game really matters, and but if anyone that finds a bit of form, yeah, I wouldn't rule out. Apart from the bottom two now, I think everyone, if they could find a bit of form, Europe is realistic.
So you mean Cork and Finn Harps?
I mean Cork and Finn Harps. I think their aim will be to avoid relegation. But I think anybody else, they might have an eye over their shoulder. They might be don't want to go into bad form. But likewise, if they had a couple of wins, 2 or 3 wins together, and then you're definitely looking at a possibility of Europe.
Well, this is it, isn't it? Because of the way the fixtures are. Anyone can get lucky this year. And good luck to them if they do. But Shells need to bounce back, and I think Sligo will be fine now. I think they'll go on a little bit of a run. Still think Europe might be a bit premature, but people were talking about Shells for Europe up until last week as well. So I can see what you mean. But let's talk about Waterford and Cork at the RSC, a 0-0. But there's some things to talk about. Obviously, the 2 players of Waterford got negative results for the COVID tests, so that's over and done with now. They can go back to playing games. Their doctor did quit the club, which I think we'd spoken before in our last show about. Nothing more really has came out about that. And then Daryl Murphy, who is supposedly is set to sign, was obviously in the stands at the game as well. So it looks like he's going to sign for them, which for me, I'm not that overly bothered. I mean, he's 37 now. It's not for me that exciting, but like it's always good to see former international players coming back, but I just don't like the fact of them coming back so late. I just don't think it really adds anything to the league. Mind you, I say that, but if Wes Houlihan came back next week, I'd be all over it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of being a walking contradiction there in that sense, but it just doesn't really excite me that much. But Waterford fans might think differently. As for Cork, they need to start picking up points.
Well, I think both of them, having watched the game, both of them could have done with Darren Murphy. He's 37, but he still has goals in him, and look, time will tell. He hasn't, as far as I know, he hasn't signed yet, so I don't know what the hold up. It's certainly being talked about for quite a while now. I mean, Waterford certainly could have done with him on Saturday. Frankly, it was a poor game. The first half was pretty awful. Second half livened up a bit. I thought Waterford were the better team without doing enough to win the game. Had a couple of chances. Michael O'Connor, he was back again with Waterford, and decent enough signing as well.
Yeah.
He had a good chance early in the second half. They had a stone. Probably the controversial moment was the Kevin O'Connor handball, or was it handball? You can give us your thoughts in the comments whether you think it was a penalty or not. I imagine all the Waterford fans will say it was definitely a penalty. And Will Fitz, a player I know well from Limerick, lovely old-fashioned winger. He had a great chance at the end, and Mark McNulty did well to smother it. Cork didn't show much, frankly. I think they'll be happy. They'll be the happier of the two with the point. It still leaves them bottom, but it's down to goal difference now. and but it's going to be very tight. But I don't know. Waterford probably be disappointed. I mean, they have high hopes of Europe, and but they would have been looking for 3 points on Saturday.
Yeah, well, these are the games that they have to win. You know, they've obviously had uh, all that thing in the background. That might have been a distraction for them as well. So you just don't know. Maybe when Murphy comes in, things might go back being positive again. They might start getting results. So that's something you just kind of have to see. As for Cork, I mean, I struggle to see where they get results these days. It's a far cry from what they were 2 years ago. You know, it really is. They've just really deteriorated, and they just don't really show anything anymore from a team that were so dominant and always fight with Dundalk as the top two, and here they are. They can barely get a goal these days. You know, they've obviously got beat by Bohs, which doesn't look like as bad of a result now if you're kind of going off recent games. But then they come up against Waterford, who beat Chelsea last week and looked really good doing it too. I don't know, but what they need definitely is a goal scorer, and that's probably why they're in the position that they're in now. They signed back Graham Cummins. He's apparently playing as a centre back now. So
yeah, that's a strange one. But that's what he said. He wanted to come back as play as. He could obviously be a threat from corners, but he certainly they could do with the Graham Cummins, the striker, or yeah, I don't know where the goals are going to come from. And it's probably not just someone to put the ball in the net. It's probably to create the chances as well. That they don't seem to create a lot of chances. It's not as if they're missing lots of goals every week either.
yeah. Well, I just want to leave it on that note regarding the games, and I know you want to talk about the European games. And Owen Cowser, had a tweet out earlier on about the Europa League draw. So I'm gonna try pronounce it. Rituria of Lithuania are facing Derry City. That's an away fixture for Derry. Shamrock Rovers are facing, I think you said, Ilves Tampere from Finland, and that's a home game. And then Fehérvar from Hungary will face Bohs. So there's no travel restrictions for those games as of now. That could change. We don't know. But they're the ties then. And there's obviously the Dundalk one as well. I get that now. But
against Celje, yeah.
What is it?
They're playing NK Celje, the Slovenian champions.
Well, I know you've got your research done on them. So if you want to talk about all the teams if you want.
Yeah, so we'll start with the Champions League, and I think it was an awful draw for Dundalk. They were very unlucky because they were down to 50-50 between the Faroes, KI Klasovic, I think the Faroes champions and the Slovenian champions, and obviously there's a huge difference in quality there. Celje, they're not often in Europe, and they often get knocked out in the first round. But bit surprise winners of Slovenian league up against the likes of Maribor and Olympic Ljubljana. One bonus for Dundalk is the travel restrictions mean the game will not take place in Celje. It's actually being played in just outside Budapest in the Wispest Stadium. So more of a neutral venue, but they still have to travel. But it's going to be very, very difficult.
Well, I know Nathan Adua would play with Ljubljana, and he would have come up against them as well. He noted it there the other day, yesterday.
Yeah. And then, I mean, in today's draw, if they were to beat Celje, they either play, well, more than likely they'll play Molde of Norway, or the
Solskjaer's old team.
Yeah, and or Kuopio, I think, of Finland. They're meeting in the first round, and Dundalk are at home to the winners if they do beat Celje. But that's going to be a big ask. One small advantage for Dundalk is the Slovenians are out of season and their league only starts on Wednesday, so it might give them a small advantage, but it's going to be very, very difficult. And the other thing is Dundalk are not in the best of form since lockdown, so fingers crossed they can do it, but it's going to be very tough.
It's a good final, really, isn't it, for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a one-legged game, so I suppose 90 minutes and possibly extra time and penalties, anything can happen. But unfortunately, I think Celje will be favourites.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about the other ties then, and then we'll wrap it up for the hour then.
Sure. Shamrock Rovers have a home draw against Ilves Tampere. They're only seventh currently. They're mid-season as well in the Finnish league. 3 wins, 3 draws, 3 defeats. So pretty average enough form. So I think Rovers have a great chance in this game because one, they're at home and they're in flying form. They did really well in Europe last year. They beat Brann, who you would think are a tougher proposition, and they did really well against the Cypriot club as well. So yeah, I'd be very optimistic for Shamrock Rovers. Bohs, not so much. They were drawn away to uh, Fehervar or something. I'm bordering the pronunciations here, um, of Hungary, and it's going to be really tough for Bohs. So their first game is on Saturday as well, so they're out of season. Maybe a slight advantage. They finished second in the league last year, about 13 points behind Ferencváros, who older Bohs fans may remember. They knocked Bohs out in 1997. That was 6-0 in aggregate. So hopefully Bohs will do a bit better against Ferencváros, but it's going to be very tough. And I think the Hungarian side at home will be warm favourites for that. Um, Derry City is an interesting one. They were drawn away, which probably is not what you want, against Ritoria, or anyway, the Lithuanian team. Um, so they're currently actually rock bottom of the Lithuanian league. They're having an awful season. The only win they've actually had is against Zalgiris, who are actually who are currently top of the league, which is a bit of a surprise. But otherwise, they're in pretty awful form. 1 win and 4 draws, 9 defeats. Um, so I think Derry have to have a great chance here, even though they're away from home. And I quite fancy Derry City and Shamrock Rovers to go through.
Yeah, well, obviously we want all the teams to go through that if that are playing from obviously Ireland. I know you feel that way as well, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, look, they're all ties that are winnable because they're all cup finals. Do you know what I mean? So look, I'd love to see all four win, or 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4, or whatever. I'd just like to see us do well in Europe because I think the league needs it, and I think the teams need it too, and we think we need a bit of a boost. And you always see when teams in our league do well, a lot of the fans from other clubs get behind them, and that's kind of a thing I'd like to see again soon.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I think fans do go along as neutrals and support our clubs in Europe, which is great to see. In general, rivalries left aside. Not too sure in the Shamrock Rovers Bohs. I don't think there's a lot of love lost there when they're playing in Europe. But otherwise, certainly as a Limerick fan, I am happy to support any Irish club in Europe, and I really would love to see all four of our clubs go through and do us proud. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there with our League of Ireland show. Huge thanks to anyone who's been watching live with us. If you're not watching it live and you're watching it back, don't forget to drop a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to follow us, if you're watching, you can follow me at PaulNeil90 on Instagram and at PaulNeil2508 on Twitter. You can follow Gary on Twitter at Spain Gary if you're listening on podcasts as well. Don't forget to give a 5-star rating. We'll speak to you guys